All right, welcome back to the Spero Means Hope podcast, where we take storytelling to a whole new level by sharing amazing patient stories, interview experts in the community, and share resources for clinicians and students. Tonight we have with us Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hi, how are you, Mercia?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. And Jason is one of our patient and also one of our patients' caregiver. So can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? Like, where are you from? What do you do for a living? And then what do you do for fun?
Okay. I am from the great state of Texas. I was born here. I will always claim it as home. However, I was raised in Georgia. That's where Angel and I met. I am a registered nurse, so most of my professional career has been spent taking care of others with whatever their needs may be. And then for fun, I just like to get out, like to chill. I am a homebody, but I do like to go out and enjoy the outdoors or watch a movie or read a book. Just anything to relax.
Did you always know you wanted to be a nurse?
Yes, deep down on some level, I did. When my mother passed when I was 11, she had cancer, and we found out uh, it started when I was about 9. So from that age, I'm just seeing how all the nurses and doctors treated her. I knew I wanted to do something in the healthcare field, and then seeing how the hospice nurses were so good with her and her transition kind of made me settle on that nursing goal.
Wow. And so, as a nurse, which settings did you work in?
I've tried a little bit of everything, so from bedside to management. But I've worked in acute care in the hospitals. I've done long term care in the nursing homes. I've done rehab, and then on the management side, I've done. I did a short stint as a director. Did not like that at all. But my love is really the bedside nursing, just taking care of the individual.
Wow. And then, so you mentioned Angel earlier. So, can you talk to us a little bit about her? Like, how did you guys meet and who is she to you?
We met at work. Funny story is she is a nurse as well. And when I was doing my nursing training, part of my clinicals, I rotated through her nursing home where she was already working as a nurse. So she was my mentor, and then later became my wife.
Aw, I love that so much. And so, how long have you guys been together? And then, what is your favorite thing about her?
Hmm. We've been together going on 15 years. And my favorite thing about her would just be her heart. She is so sweet, so gentle, and is just always giving of herself.
I love that, and like I think that heart really shines every day. Like even just meeting her, that's one of the things that is so evident. Like how sweet she is. Mhm. Jason, can you share a little bit about what brought you guys to physical therapy? And you can go in like as many little details or as little details as you want.
Okay, all right. So about 3 years ago, Angel started with, she started having some migraines. They started infrequently. We didn't think anything about them, but then they began to progress more often. Would take longer to go away, and then sometimes would make her nauseous to where we were in the ER, where the doctors were giving her medications, trying to just chill everything out. And it would, she would be overnight just trying to get everything back under control. Um, I think that's when everything first started, but we didn't put two and two together until about a year and a half ago. One of her doctors, that was her ophthalmologist, decided that we needed to do an MRI where they found a tumor in her brain. Um, so we were searching what the tumor could be, because at that point the doctor's like, it could be this, could be that. None of the prognoses were very good. So we decided to seek out other options at MD Anderson. Um, they gave us a plan that provided some that gave Angel a chance, really, because the other doctors told us that there was really nothing they could do for her. So we chose to take the chance at MD Anderson, and they were able to remove about 75% of the tumor and to give her a fighting chance. Unfortunately, some complications arose through the surgery, though, that led to the stroke and then her paralysis, which is why we're at at therapy.
Gotcha. That's thanks for sharing that story. How has like learning this news and this transition affected both of you guys' life?
Oh, well, it was a change, you know.
Yeah.
You go through a lot of emotions when you get information like that. Being a nurse, both of us, we see it every day, but when it's in that on that personal level, it just hits a little bit different. So it is a big change. We had to do a lot of soul searching, in this time. We've always been, Christians. Angel. I can't say we've always been. Angel has always been. Uh, um, I found that later in life, but we, yeah, just had to really do a lot of searching of ourselves to find the strength to kind of just carry us through this.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the biggest obstacles you guys have faced in that transition?
I think obviously the physical limitations was the biggest obstacle. But as far as like on the medical side, just walking through all of the nuances of the medicine, of the insurances, of the disability departments and social security departments that are all supposed to be there to help you, but because of the red tape and all the rules and regulations, walking through those things to make sure that Angel has what she needs were our biggest obstacles.
I see. And it's definitely a hard system to navigate, and um like you mentioned insurances. It's it's a lot. It's a lot. And so there's a lot that goes into navigating healthcare even when you do know things about healthcare.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Being the bedside nurse, I always have gotten the orders. There was never a question of what to do now. So
Mm,
on the other side of it, where I'm having to figure it out on our own. Hey, this is what we need. How do we get it? Yeah, that was pretty big.
yeah. And then on a more personal level, how has your transition been stepping into the role of a caregiver? Earlier at the beginning you mentioned like very early on in life I knew that I wanted to care for people. And so how did you navigate that transition into this new role?
Um, Honestly, it was pretty easy. As a bedside nurse, with that being my where I wanted to focus my career, I would go to work every day, even in the nursing home where people are at the end of their life, or during COVID where we were dealing with those hard situations every day. I always went to work with the thought of if I can do one small thing to make their life better or to make this moment better, um, then I did something. And so going from that to making it okay, if I can do one small thing for my wife, it was not it was a big jump in the fact of, it's not work anymore, it's our life, but
Yeah.
it was it was a natural transition, I guess.
Yeah. What are some things that it can be like people, individuals, resources, anything that helped you? Like who do you turn to whenever you have questions or don't really know what to do? Or...
Uh, Number one, always God.
Hmm.
When I don't know what to do, that's the first That's my first go to is, we talk about it, we pray about it, and then we start seeking out the experts who know. So, we leaned heavily on our therapist. Um, hey, this is my problem. This is what is going on at home. How can we work that better, or how can we accommodate that? So yeah, speaking with our doctors, our case managers, even our case manager with the insurance, talking with them and saying, hey, are there resources for building ramps at our house and things like that, just leaning on those in the community who do it for a living, um, who may not have all of the answers but can lead you in the right direction.
Is there anything that you wish you knew about caregiving?
It can be very exhausting and it can be lonely. So thinking about that, I guess, if I knew earlier, I would reach out to some of our family members. As a nurse, my goal was taking care of the patient, but their families are walking through a very similar situation. So I would have asked more, how are you? What's going on with you at home? Just to make sure that, they have what they need, or they're coping,
Mm,
or learning those coping skills, because it can be very exhausting. It can be very lonely.
yeah, it's you're giving me a lot of like for thought as a healthcare professional in, not focusing on the patients, of course, because you're treating them, but checking in with the family member. And I think it's something that we don't think enough. We don't think about enough is like asking that family member, like, hey, like, what do you need and how are you doing, and those things.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I asked you about some of the biggest obstacles, but what about some of the biggest milestones? Like anything that, like if you think back from the first day of diagnosis to where you guys are now, like anything that you're like, wow, like I never thought we would be able to do this, and I'm very proud of this, or like what are some of you guys' biggest milestones?
So that list is very, very long, because, like I said, our prognosis was not good. Um, even we first went through Baylor. They did the biopsy, and their suggestion was there's nothing we can do. So going from that to going to MD Anderson, where there is some hope, then the setback. Um, Going through that, I don't take anything for granted. So when Angel came out of her surgery, completely paralyzed, um, with not even any eye movement, not able to track any, follow the doctor's movement, not to look towards sound, not even blinking her eyes. She was just there. So coming from that, and having doctors tell me that I need to look at the bigger picture, or that she's alive and that's really all I can hope for. I don't take anything for granted. So when we started, when I saw that um, little twinkle in her eye that, meant, hey, she's coming back, or when she began to communicate by blinking her eyes, um, all of those things are just a milestone that I don't take for granted. So every little thing that she does, when she lights up because, hey, now I can wiggle my pinky, or now I can do this, um, we don't take anything for granted. Everything's a milestone. Um, from the time we got our van, or even before the van, the first time I was able to get her in the truck by myself, when we got the van, and the first road trip we took to say, hey, we're getting back to normal. First trip we took was to Mexico, 6 hours down the road, or long. We're like, we're not just going to the next county, we're going out of the country. So we don't take anything for granted. Every little thing is a milestone. Every new day that we get, every sunset we get to watch, um, is a milestone.
Oh, I love that. I don't know why I'm like almost tearing up, but just like hearing you talk about the beginning, it's like, yeah, you guys have been through a lot. It's, in outpatient, you see someone, they're already out of the hospital, they're medically stable. You don't see those like first beginning. And so I am so happy she's alive. and laughing, and moving and all the things. So that's amazing. Like thank you, Jesus. That's awesome.
Oh yes, oh yes.
In your with everything that has happened, I'm sure you've come across lots of healthcare providers. And so if you could talk to healthcare professionals and give them an advice on things that you feel are important to take into consideration when working with patients, family members, all the things. What are some advice you would give to healthcare providers?
Um, I'm not sure. I guess to not be afraid to ask those hard questions. Like, hey, this is where we're at. What is your goal? What do you want, and how can we help you achieve that? Because in the beginning, I had to fight very hard to get Angel into the rehab that she went to, into the inpatient rehab, because the doctors, not all of them were on board with her emerging consciousness. Most of them were telling me that what I was seeing was just reflexes. But I kept fighting and pushing, because my goal was not to just take her to a nursing home and let her live the rest of her natural life. My goal was to get her back home and get her back to as much normalcy as we can. So I think the biggest thing would be listen to your patient, listen to your family member, and find out what their goals are, because there's no limit to what you can do when you set your heart and your mind to it.
Oh, I love that. And it's so interesting how often we hear stories of I don't want to say like healthcare providers like limiting what can happen, but just I guess using their like clinical reasoning to think like, okay, this is like as much as it's gonna get, and how often humans are so resilient that they like, blow past those like expectations or like, defy the odds and all the things. And I think it's always really humbling and just kind of reminds us how little we are as humans. We don't know what the future holds, for anybody. And so hope is so important, fighting for those things is so important because um if you don't push, then you don't know. I'm glad you were able to be a strong advocate for her to get into rehab.
Yes, ma'am. Me
Yeah.
too.
Jason, what are your best ways that you take care of yourself? Self-care for caregivers. Like what do you do? How do you resource, like rejuvenate all the things?
My goodness, that is very hard. Being sole caregiver, I'm here 24/7. So, all day long I have to stay alert and attentive to her needs. During the night, I have to sleep with one eye open to make sure that I'm there for whatever she needs. So, how do I recharge? I think I don't take any moment for granted. So, like when she is preoccupied playing with AJ, I may sit down and just have a quiet moment and say some prayers or just read a few pages in a book. After I get her settled down for bed before I lay down, I just take a few moments just to just do something for myself, whether it's, like I said, reading a book or having a drink or, just sitting down and breathing, just sitting down and chilling and saying, hey, I can just rest for a moment. Um, and then the biggest thing is not being afraid to ask for help. In the beginning, as the nurse, everybody was like, "Oh, well, you've done this all your life. You got this." And I was like, "Yes, I'm strong. I got this." Um, but asking for your help when you need it, is the biggest thing, because we're all human, and everybody needs help sometimes.
Yeah. Asking for help and then using the little moments. I love that. Um Now looking at things from like her perspective, like how would you say her transition has been I guess from like being a nurse to like being on the patient end, and like how has she's been doing navigating that transition?
Well, that'd be a question for her.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, um, I think she has done very well. I mean, like, she has always been a very positive person. Never lets anything keep her down long, because obviously, like I said, we are human, right? Um, so going from being a nurse caregiver to being a patient, um, I think has given her a little bit more empathy. I mean, she's always been empathetic to her patients and to her family members, but I think it's given her a little more insight into the life of the patients, because she's a little bit more caring, if she could be more caring. When she sees someone else, she's always like, hey, even though I'm here and you're doing everything for me, how can we help them? You know, when she sees somebody in need, she's like, Jason, go see what you can do. You
Aw.
know? So I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. What are you guys looking forward to the most in the future? Like, what are some of you guys' goals, and what are you excited about?
growing old together.
Aw,
Growing old.
my heart.
um, yeah, growing old together. That was our original goal when we got married, is to be together till the end, and so that's where I see us going.
Aw. Jason, I absolutely adore you guys. You guys are such a joy to work with, because I feel like there's not a there's not a times that I see you guys that something hasn't happened in you guys' life that is just like this marvelous adventure. But I think also the love that you guys both have for each other is so evident, is so precious, and it's very heartwarming to get to witness and see. Yeah, I feel very, very blessed to get to work with you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any words of encouragement for any caregiver listening to this? What are some words you would say to encourage on the days that it gets really hard?
Just know you're not alone. There's somebody in your back corner rooting you on, cheering you on, and who will be there to help you out when you need it. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Don't be afraid to reach out to others who may need help. Actually, today, before we left Spero this morning, there's another family member there that I've been talking to in passing, and been hearing some of their situations that they're going through. Today we touched base and gave phone numbers, and I was like, hey, I'm here if you ever need to call me. And so just know you're not alone. We're all in this together, and just finding somebody who knows what you're going through, and who can just be there, even if it's just to listen. Just know just reach out for help. Don't do it alone.
I love that. Jason, if you had like a thank you list and any shout out that you want to give to anybody that has been instrumental in your journey, who would you extend your thank yous to?
um all of the doctors who listen to us, all of the therapists who we've worked with. I mean, Angel's had several therapists before we landed here at Spero, and each one was a stepping stone to get us to you guys. So, thank you to everybody who's had a hand in her care and in her recovery. Um, on a personal level, we'd have to give a shout out to my family who let us live in their home, for the 2 years while we were going through this initial shock and initial injury, where there was no income coming in. If it hadn't been for them, I'd be on the streets and Angel be in a nursing home.
Yeah.
Just to the doctors, therapists, family, everybody, friends. I mean, we have friends in Georgia that call us and email us on Facebook, and just send a few dollars here and there, just to say, hey, I might be 1,400 miles away, but we're here if you need us. So just everybody who knows us, um, you know who you are. Thank you.
I love that. Last question. Like, how would you say, because earlier you mentioned something that really helps you a lot is your faith. How would you say this journey has deepened your faith?
It has, that's a hard question. It has deepened my faith in the fact that it has humbled me.
Mm,
I never have been like a very proud person, but I have realized now that, I do need more help than I say that I do. So it has helped me, number one, just reach out more to God, just to grow closer to Him. When I'm having a bad day, there's one who's always there day and night that I can call on. So it has deepened my faith in the fact that I feel like I'm closer to God, and then that I feel like I'm showing more of His love, not only to Angel but to others as well.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
Jason, is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you really wanted to mention, or any last words of wisdom that you wanted to impart?
Just like I think what the main theme is, just don't be afraid to ask for help. Um, don't be afraid to push for what you need. Um, and then you have to get creative. Know what you need, and just figure out how to get it done, or ask, those around you, how do we do this? I do want to show one thing. When Angel was finally able to have controllable blinks, we began to communicate by her blinking yes or no. So the doctors and the nurses and everybody were just sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. But I made this little thing. I don't know if you can see it, but I saved it just
Aww.
from the bathroom at the hospital and ICU, where I just wrote the alphabet on it in different layers, different levels. And I was like,
Aww.
first level. And she would blink yes or no. Is it on the second level? And once I find where she's at, then we go through the letters. Um, it spell out, because the communication boards and all that they were giving us were very, very basic, and Angel is not a basic person. She's like wanting to have conversations instead of pointing to pain or pointing to food. She's like, hey, this porridge is too cold. I mean, she wanted to talk. So
Yeah,
I made that where she could spell out her words and get her point across.
I love that so much. Like, that makes my heart so happy. And like also you mentioning, like, the little device they give you that have so many few options, and it's like, no, like, let me say a few sentence, like, I am craving bojangles tonight. Jason, thank you so much for like having this conversation with me, and for sharing like a little glimpse into you and Angel's story, but then also from sharing your perspective as a caregiver to others. So I really appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.